Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Microsoft, which reported earnings after the close. We had a nice earnings beat. Estimated earnings was $2.21 a share. We got $2.45 a share. And off of that news and a strong earnings result, Microsoft has gapped up and is currently trading near that 288.50 mark. The goal of today's video is to use all of the tools we have at our disposal to understand what we think is likely to happen tomorrow, given the information we already know. And that information is we had a gap up, we had an earnings beat, and we had a strong bullish trend as we headed into earnings. Now there's two indicators I'll be using today. Both are free, and I'll leave a link to them in the description box below. The first one is the market pulse line. And the market pulse indicator plots this line on our chart, which prints either green, red, or gray, giving us some very clear direction around trend. Now here we can see the market pulse in Microsoft as of February of 2023 turned green and has been green ever since. Today, Microsoft pulled back to the market pulse line pre-earnings announcement. We had a sell-off today inside of Microsoft, down 2.25%. However, if you zoom out and you take a look at this, we pulled back into a place where we would have expected to find support. Previous resistance turned into new support, pulling back into the market pulse line after Microsoft has made a new high in this bullish trend. So everything here is suggesting a strong bullish trend, and we've gapped up, trading now somewhere, 288.50, let's call it. Let me draw a horizontal price line there so we have a nice easy reference here. We'll make this a little thicker. Let's make this yellow. So this is where Microsoft's currently trading, and we have that information available to us as well. Now that we've understood trend, let's load in our smarter earnings indicator. And this too is a free indicator which helps us understand how Microsoft tends to trade on the day of earnings. You can download it for free on our website, tosindicators.com/earnings. There, scroll down and you'll find the Smarter Earnings Indicator, and you can click this button right here to download the indicator. Now with the indicator loaded on and 5 years worth of data, we can try and determine what the earnings tendencies are inside of Microsoft. There's two sets of labels here I'll focus on. The first is the blue set, the second is the yellow set. The blue set of labels gives us information around gaps. Do gaps tend to get filled, which is what the blue labels tell us, or do we instead see a gap and go, meaning a trend in the direction of the gap, which is what the yellow labels tell us? Now, if we start first with the gap up fills, since we know that Microsoft, if we hold where price is currently trading, is likely to gap up, and we had an earnings beat, so gap up fills is what we're looking at here. 1 out of 6 times that we've had a gap up, only one of those times has been off of an earnings miss. So we can infer that the other 5 out of 6 times here that we've had a gap fill has been on the backs of an earnings beat. So to me, this is very interesting here, especially if you zoom out and you take a look at where Microsoft's trading here. We're trading near previous resistance where Microsoft has failed. This would be a decent place to have earnings be the volatility catalyst that takes us into previous resistance, or where we'd expect to see some resistance. And we instead see that gap get filled where most people might be looking for Microsoft to just take off and start running. However, if we look at the other side now, which is the gap and go, that also has equally high likelihood. 6 out of 6 times that we've gapped and goed, this strategy has been met, and we've done that on the backs of an earnings beat. So we're split here across the board. There's an equal tendency or a likeliness for that gap to get filled versus for that gap to start running. So there we can use some clues, some other clues that we have available to us. The first is price. Our resistance here is near that 292.08 level. The average gap and go bullish move is $3.57. Let's say Microsoft does close or open here rather tomorrow, where we're currently trading, 288.50. $3.57 would take us above this resistance level and could be considered, quote unquote, a breakout, trigger all of the breakout entries waiting up here for trend continuation. I am personally in the bias that this feels more like a trap. You can call me a little bit more bearish there, and I don't really have any other gut feel for this outside of just the volatility we've seen and the amount of times that these earnings plays have reversed in the past, 2 years really, and the volatility, that we've been seeing, I'm more in the likelihood or mindset rather that we get a gap fill. Now, we're going to be on the lookout for both of these strategies. And tomorrow, I think you can use the morning opening price there to make some smart decisions. You'll have not only an understanding of where Microsoft actually opens, and we'll see right now we're at 289, but so many times we've seen that completely reverse overnight. If we've even broken above, say, this resistance level overnight, then you have a very clear sign here that no, there's some solid strength here inside of Microsoft. And this gap and go strategy looks a lot more appealing compared to a gap that gets filled. That gap might even be too far away for it to get filled in any kind of realistic likelihood. On the other hand, if we see Microsoft more or less hold this level, and if we come into something like a 1-minute chart, this trend starts to reverse a little bit, meaning we see less buyer strength. We start to see a little bit more skepticism hit the market. We get more context around the earnings report, which implies maybe some level of skepticism or negativity. Then the gap up fill, to me, seems like a really nice risk reward strategy here. For that gap to be considered fill, we would need to come all the way down to the high of today's candle, which was at 281.60. If Microsoft is opening at, say, 288.50, that's a real nice range that we could take advantage of and trade. That is a lot more appealing than this $3.57 range that we have for a gap and go. Now, keep everything I said in mind with the notion that you do need to keep track of where Microsoft opens tomorrow. I'm making this video as of right now before even the 3 p.m. open for the futures markets, so you will need to check tomorrow morning to see where Microsoft ends up actually opening and what pre-market activity looks like. I hope you found today's video useful. For those of you looking at trying to understand this for Google or any of the other companies that report earnings as well, be sure to check out our earnings indicators, tosindicators.com/earnings. Take care, everyone. Good luck trading, and I'll see you in the next update.